When my younger sister Emma called me one rainy evening, her voice sounded tired and broken. She told me that she had lost her job and could no longer afford to pay rent for her apartment. She asked if she could stay with my husband Daniel and me for a few weeks until she got back on her feet. I immediately agreed. Emma was my sister, and I loved her. Growing up, we had always been close. Even though we argued sometimes, we shared many happy memories. I could not imagine turning her away when she needed help. Daniel also supported the idea. He told me that families should help each other during difficult times. A few days later, Emma arrived with 2 large suitcases and a forced smile that barely hid her sadness. At first, everything seemed normal. Emma spent most of her time searching for jobs online. She helped me cook dinner, cleaned the house, and thanked us repeatedly for letting her stay. I felt proud that we could support her during a difficult period. However, after the first week, I began noticing small things that felt strange. Emma suddenly started dressing differently. She spent more time doing her hair and makeup, even when she had nowhere to go. She laughed a little too loudly at Daniel's jokes and always seemed eager to sit next to him during meals. I tried not to think too much about it. She was my sister. Surely I was imagining things. One evening, we were watching a movie together. I got up to make popcorn in the kitchen. When I returned, I noticed Emma leaning very close to Daniel while showing him something on her phone. The moment she saw me, she quickly moved away. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. Over the next few days, similar moments continued happening. Emma always found reasons to talk to Daniel. If he was working in the garden, she would suddenly appear outside. If he was fixing something in the garage, she would offer to help. Daniel remained polite but distant. He treated her kindly, just as he treated everyone else. Yet Emma seemed determined to attract his attention. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I found one of Emma's dresses mixed with Daniel's clothes. It seemed like a small thing, but it added to the growing discomfort I felt. That night, I mentioned my concerns to Daniel. He listened carefully before speaking. "I've noticed some unusual behavior too," he admitted. My heart sank. "What do you mean?" I asked. Daniel hesitated. "Emma sometimes sends me messages when you're asleep. Nothing openly inappropriate, but they make me uncomfortable." I stared at him in shock. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to create problems between you and your sister," he replied. I thought maybe I was misunderstanding her intentions. I asked to see the messages. Most of them seemed innocent at first glance. She asked how his day was going, complimented his appearance, and thanked him for being such a wonderful husband. But as I read more carefully, I noticed a pattern. The messages felt personal, almost flirtatious. My chest tightened. I wanted to believe there was another explanation, but deep down I knew something was wrong. The following week, things became even more obvious. One evening, I returned home from work earlier than expected. The house was unusually quiet. As I entered the living room, I found Emma and Daniel sitting together. Daniel looked relieved to see me. Emma looked surprised. The atmosphere felt awkward. Later, Daniel explained that Emma had been asking personal questions about our marriage. She wanted to know if we ever argued, whether he was truly happy, and if he ever regretted getting married. The questions made him uncomfortable. For the first time, I felt genuinely angry. I had opened my home to help my sister. Instead of focusing on rebuilding her life, she seemed interested in my husband. Still, I decided to give her one chance to explain. That night, I knocked on her bedroom door. She invited me inside. I sat on the edge of her bed and carefully chose my words. "Emma, I need to ask you something honestly." She nodded. "Do you have feelings for Daniel?" For a moment, she froze. Then she laughed nervously. "Of course not." But her eyes told a different story. I continued. "Please tell me the truth." Silence filled the room. Finally, tears appeared in her eyes. She looked down at her hands. "I never planned for this to happen," she whispered. My heart broke. "What happened?" Emma took a deep breath. "When I lost my job, I felt like my entire life was falling apart. Then I came here and saw how happy you and Daniel were. You had everything I wanted. I listened quietly. I started comparing my life to yours, she continued. At first, I was jealous of your marriage. Then I convinced myself that Daniel understood me better than anyone else. The words hurt more than I expected. Did you try to take him away from me? I asked. Emma could not look at me. Her silence gave me the answer. Tears filled my eyes. I felt betrayed, angry, and heartbroken all at once. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, I stood up. I helped you because you're my sister, I said quietly. I trusted you. Emma started crying harder. I'm sorry. But the apology felt too late. The next morning, Daniel and I discussed what to do. Neither of us wanted endless drama inside our home. We agreed that Emma needed to leave. When I told her our decision, she did not argue. Perhaps she understood that her actions had consequences. A few hours later, she packed her bags. Before leaving, she stood by the front door. I never wanted to hurt you, she said softly. I nodded but said nothing. The wound was still fresh. She left, and the house suddenly felt quiet. Over the following weeks, I struggled with many emotions. Losing trust in someone you love is painful. I kept asking myself how things had reached that point. Thankfully, Daniel remained patient and supportive. He reassured me that he had never encouraged Emma's behavior and that our marriage remained strong. His honesty helped me heal. Months later, Emma contacted me again. She had found a new job and moved into her own apartment. More importantly, she had begun seeing a counselor to work through her feelings and insecurities. Her message included a sincere apology. This time, it felt genuine. Although forgiveness did not happen overnight, I slowly began rebuilding our relationship. The experience taught me an important lesson. Love and trust are precious things that should never be taken for granted. Even family members can make serious mistakes when jealousy and insecurity take control. Today, Emma and I are on better terms, though things will never be exactly as they were before. Some scars remain, but they remind us of the importance of honesty, boundaries, and respect. Most importantly, I learned that a strong marriage is built on communication and trust. When challenges appeared, Daniel and I faced them together. That unity protected our relationship and helped us overcome one of the most difficult situations we had ever experienced. The night after my sister Emma left our house, I could barely sleep. Her confession kept replaying in my mind. I remembered every conversation, every strange smile, every moment that had made me uncomfortable. What hurt the most was not that she had developed feelings for my husband. What hurt was that she had hidden those feelings while living under my roof and accepting my kindness. For weeks, the situation weighed heavily on me. Daniel tried his best to support me. Every evening after work, he would sit beside me on the couch and ask how I was feeling. He listened patiently whenever I wanted to talk. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I became angry. Other times I simply sat in silence, wondering how my own sister could betray my trust. One evening, Daniel gently held my hand. You don't have to carry this alone, he said. I know, I replied softly. But I never imagined Emma would do something like this. Neither of us had expected it. As the days passed, life slowly returned to normal. The tension that had filled our house disappeared. Meals became peaceful again. Conversations felt natural. Yet despite the calm, there was still an empty space in my heart where my relationship with Emma used to be. Several weeks later, I received a message from her. At first, I ignored it. Then another message arrived the next day. And another the day after that. Finally, curiosity won. I opened the conversation. Emma had written a long apology. She admitted that she had been struggling with jealousy for years. Growing up, she often felt like she was living in my shadow. She believed I was smarter, more successful, and more confident than she was. Whenever something good happened in my life, she compared it to her own failures. Reading her words filled me with mixed emotions. Part of me felt sympathy. Another part remained deeply hurt. I decided not to answer immediately. Over the next few days, I thought carefully about what she had written. I realized that forgiveness was not something that could happen overnight. Trust had been broken, and rebuilding it would take time. A month later, Emma sent another message. This time she told me she had found a new job in another city. She was renting a small apartment and trying to rebuild her life. At the end of the message, she wrote, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness right now, but I hope one day we can be sisters again." Her words stayed with me. After discussing it with Daniel, I decided to reply. I kept my message short. "I'm glad you found a job. I need more time, but I hope you continue moving forward." A few minutes later, she responded with a simple thank you. That small exchange marked the beginning of a long healing process. Months passed. Occasionally, Emma and I exchanged messages. We talked about work, family, and everyday life. We avoided discussing the painful events that had separated us. Neither of us seemed ready for that conversation. Then one afternoon, nearly 6 months after she left, my phone rang. It was Emma. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Instead, I answered. Her voice sounded different, stronger, more confident. We talked for almost an hour. She told me she had started attending counseling sessions. Through therapy, she was learning how much her insecurity had affected her decisions. For the first time, she fully understood the damage she had caused. "I was selfish," she admitted. "I wanted what you had instead of building my own life." I listened quietly. "I don't expect you to forget what happened," she continued. "But I want you to know that I truly regret it." Tears filled my eyes. This apology felt different from the others. There were no excuses. No attempts to justify her actions. Just honesty. For the first time since everything happened, I felt some of my anger begin to fade. Several months later, our parents organized a family gathering. Emma would be there. The idea made me nervous. I had not seen her in person since she moved out of my house. On the day of the gathering, Daniel squeezed my hand as we arrived. "You'll be okay," he said. I nodded. When I walked into my parents' home, I immediately spotted Emma across the room. For a brief moment, neither of us moved. Then she slowly approached me. "I'm glad you came," she said quietly. "Me too," I replied. The conversation felt awkward at first. But as the evening continued, we slowly relaxed. We shared old family memories. We laughed about childhood adventures. For the first time in a long while, it almost felt normal. Before leaving, Emma pulled me aside. "There's something I need to say." I looked at her. "I'm sorry," she said. "Not because my life was difficult. Not because I was jealous. I'm sorry because I chose to betray your trust when you were helping me." Tears appeared in both our eyes. After a long silence, I hugged her. It was not a magical moment that erased the past. The pain did not disappear instantly. But it was a step forward. As time went on, our relationship slowly improved. We spoke more often. We visited each other occasionally. The trust that had once been shattered began rebuilding piece by piece. Meanwhile, my marriage with Daniel grew stronger than ever. The experience had taught us the importance of communication. Throughout the entire situation, we had remained honest with each other. Instead of allowing secrets to create distance between us, we faced the problem together. One evening, nearly a year after Emma moved out, Daniel and I sat on our porch watching the sunset. "Do you ever think about everything that happened?" I asked. "Sometimes," he admitted. "Do you regret helping her?" He thought for a moment. "No." I looked at him with surprise. "Why not?" "Because helping people is never the mistake," he replied. "The mistake belongs to the person who abuses that kindness." His words stayed with me. He was right. Offering help had not been wrong. Trusting my sister had not been wrong. Her choices had been wrong. Understanding that difference allowed me to finally let go of much of the guilt and sadness I had been carrying. Today, when I look back on that painful chapter of my life, I see it differently. It was a time filled with betrayal, heartbreak, and difficult lessons. But it was also a time that revealed the strength of my marriage and the resilience of my family. Emma eventually built a successful career and found happiness in her own life. She no longer compared herself to others. Instead, she focused on becoming the best version of herself. Our relationship was never exactly the same as before, but it became something new, more honest, more mature, and more realistic. Sometimes people make terrible mistakes. Sometimes those mistakes leave scars that never completely disappear. Yet healing remains possible when people accept responsibility, learn from their failures, and work to rebuild what they have broken. The secret my sister once hid nearly destroyed our relationship forever. But in the end, the truth that finally came out became the first step toward healing, forgiveness, and a future neither of us thought was possible.